when they went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. And we're back in the home studio.
Yeah.
It's not an apartment. It's not a hotel room with my wife sleeping on the bed and behind me. my wife overheard me say on, I think, Saturdays, I got Sleeping Beauty behind me here. And she's like, oh, my gosh. She tried to lay really
quick.
Huh?
Better give her a kiss.
Yeah, she tried to lay really still until like she saw me play a video, and then she got up and jumped over on the other bed. Carlit's Grand Rising, y'all. John Atakis, good morning. And Ron, that's you, Peasant's Perspective,
Yeah.
good morning. So while we wait for people to file on in here, we've got this here. Pretty good news. Silver hits a record high of 57.8 per ounce. It's now up 100% this year.
Wow.
Best investment I ever made. That is... Tucker Carl, I'm going to, over at 1776live.us, please go there and register for Ignite on Thursdays. I'm going to do a little series for people to self-study and get a macro picture of kind of the state of affairs with the economy. There's a Ray Dalio talk. There's 2 Tucker Carlson podcasts, and I've got a couple other things I want people to kind of listen to just to understand money. Right? Like it's starting to get to the point where this matters to the peasant. It didn't matter 20 or 30 years ago, right? Just get dollars, whatever. You can't spend gold or silver, but it's not that way anymore. Like if silver's up 100% in 1 year, this is a currency. Like this is money. When gold's up $4,000 and your dollar's like, and you're like, why can't they bring down the price of eggs? Because they can't bring down the price of silver, and gold and these other assets. Yeah. So you have to understand there's a correlation between how much money is in circulation and the price of things you buy at the grocery store. And the best measurement for that is that money in circulation priced against weights and measures of precious metals.
Yeah. And I'm not normally one of those guys that's like, oh, go get your gold. But when prices like happening like this, it's like hard to ignore.
Well, and Goldman Sachs did a little survey amongst all their big institutional investors, and it was like 60% of them expect gold to go to $5,000 or $6,000 an ounce next year.
Wow.
And Tucker Carlson had a podcast, and again, over at 1776live.us, I'll put this together for people to just do just links of this, and this. Spend the next 8 hours this week listening to these podcasts and YouTube videos, and then by the next week you'll be ready to, all right, let's talk about your situation now that you've realized I don't want to play that game. Right? And that's really what it boils down to. It just boils down to what game do you want to play? Whose company store do you want to buy all your stuff from? And if you think about nations in that regard as just big employment firms, you can kind of get the gist of how they treat our economics. I really believe we, the people, especially people that were born or raised by people that were pretty well established prior to 1971, when we officially came off the gold standard. We came off the redeemability of gold in 1933, but to actually come off the gold standard, you were taught save money because dollars saved was gold in the bank. And so that advice has been opposite when you go fiat like we did in 1971. This is going to happen. Silver's going to go up 50. This was impossible prior to 1971. So that's the kind of stuff where a lot of Americans are playing a game that's 100 years old. You're playing a different board game. This is the debtors win, savers lose scenario, and savers lose. The more money you have in the bank, it's depreciating. Whatever you've had in the bank this year, it's worth 50%, as valued against silver, which is our national currency, by the way, gold and silver.
Yeah. And what I would say about that is, like, even if you're not interested in buying metals and you're not interested in crypto and you're not interested in any of these alternative, finance streams, you should at least pay attention so you know what everybody else is doing.
Safe havens for inflation, right? Think of it this way. The Federal Reserve note is the equivalent of script from the East India Trading Company. You know, you can, any East India trading post, you can use their.
There's a lot of them.
And you can go barter it around because someone's eventually going to have to make it away to the trading post to get the goods they can't grow or make on their own, right? That's what the Federal Reserve dollar is. It's essentially East India trading script. Yeah. And it's the corporation of the United States and its affiliate, the Federal Reserve and those rich families, right? Anyways, it's hard. Sometimes I think this is not a financial show, but it's a peasant show. Yeah. And guess what? A lot of peasants are waking up right now, driving to a job site, driving to an office, and you're going to earn fiat dollars that is actually worth less at the end of the day than when you started working. You know what I mean? Like, weights and measures don't change. An ounce is an ounce, right? In fact, I was looking at a thing about minimum wage in 1971. I've seen different stats, but it was basically saying, you know, if we got paid for a week's labor in gold, right, 1.81 ounces, a week's minimum wage in 1971. Today it would be like, you know, like $5,000 a week, you know, would be the equivalent. And when you think about that and how people during that expansive time frame were able to buy houses and affordability and things like that, it was because the dollar was, you know,
holding value,
by weight and measure. Yeah, there was something that you couldn't get so out of balance between wages and costs. Whereas now, you know, because there's people at the front of the supply chain that get free money, they can.
It's monopoly money.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, moving on. All right. Pony Boy, good morning. Frazier, good morning from cold Boise. Yeah, I'm glad to be out of Idaho. It was. So another thing too, in fake news, there's been this report, and we talked about this the last couple days about Pete Hegseth gave the order to shoot the first narco-terrorist boat and, you know, kill them all. They shot, and then there was a report there were 2 survivors swimming in the water, and all of a sudden your virtue kicks in. We need to go save them and bring them in and offer them due process and return them to their fishing village. Right? And so allegedly it was ordered strike again. You know, this is a kinetic lethal strike. It's over. Well, this is set off like a firestorm, and it pairs in with the seditious six and their whole, we need to defy unlawful orders and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about that and the seditious six and that running coup later in the show. But just to dispel this and put it off the table, Donald Trump confirmed that Pete Hegseth said, I didn't order a second strike. I said, make it lethal, like kill him, you know? And so Trump's like, I don't even have to, he was told a reporter on the plane, I don't even have to think about it. Pete said he didn't do it. So to me, it's a non-issue. And the reason that they're able to brush it off like that is from what Kristi Noem is saying here. It's pretty simple. It's coming from a fake news source, anonymous again. Oh, hold on. It's not AI. Not AI, John. Not AI. John in Alabama, he'll be happy to know that it's not AI today.
Not today.
Not today, folks. Not today. Okay.
So, but let me ask you about another question.
During that period of
there's a Washington Post report that one of those Venezuelan boats that was attacked by a U.S. missile, alleged drug boats, that a second missile was launched because there had been 2 survivors clinging to the wreckage of the boat. I know this was obviously carried out by the Defense Department, but is the administration concerned here that may have violated the laws of war? I mean, was there an imminent threat posed by those people that were clinging to the wreckage of a boat that had already been struck?
Oh, John, that entire story is based on anonymous sources. So we see the press and we see that rag use anonymous sources all the time to print things that aren't true, that are lies, that are completely not based in reality. So I would not put any credibility to that story, to what was said. I have full faith and trust in this president and in this government to do the right thing to keep the American people safe. And I'm so grateful at the amount of work that has been done to stop those deadly drugs from getting into our country. Just in several offloads that we've been able to interdict and to stop and to blow up in the Caribbean Sea, it's been enough to save over 45 million people. 45 million lethal doses were completely destroyed, that people will now be safer because of the work that the Department of War and this president have done.
This is now a subject of investigation.
When I was in prison, you know, I lived with a lot of drug dealers, and most of them were, you know, they were pretty much like, yeah, I was selling drugs, it was poison. You know, they knew the line they were supposed to say. And but I had one roommate who he was like pretty unremorseful. Like system screwed him pretty bad. But he's one of those guys from Illinois, little small town, destroyed by lack of industry, completely obliterated by meth and then fentanyl. Right.
Okay.
So in his mind, and this was him, he's like, everybody in my town did meth. Everybody, school teachers, school principals, like everybody did meth. Okay. So to him, it was like, I can't even believe they put people in jail for this because they'd have to put the whole town in jail. It's like, well, maybe they will eventually. I don't know.
It's like the public water system.
But his whole thing was there's so many drugs in the country already. Nothing you can do can stop it. So why even try? He's like, you can stop all the fentanyl. There's still enough fentanyl to kill everybody 400 times over. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why you got to at least start somewhere, and clearly taking it off the street is not going to be enough. You got to stop it from its source. So I found this video of Jasmine Crockett back before she ran for politics, when she was just a ambulance chasing attorney in Texas.
Oh, boy.
A couple things here. First of all, she's way more rational in this video, but I just want to point this out. I had a conversation one time with my defense attorney about how lawyers have no North Star, because they're hired to basically say untruths and lie in your behalf, and all these kind of things. They'll lie for you so you don't have to, kind of thing, right? So just keeping that in mind, as it is, there's some defendant here that gets charged with, drugs or whatever, and I don't know, was allegedly assaulted these officers or whatever, but just listen to her rationale.
Fort Worth police say they were dispatched Saturday when Curry attempted to assault members of the fire department.
He did suffer from a seizure, which is why EMS was there in the first place.
Jasmine Crockett is one of Curry's attorneys.
It seems as if he suffered from the seizure and woke up potentially disoriented with what was going on.
In a statement, the Fort Worth Police Department said what the video does not depict is that it took 3 officers and 1 supervisor to effectively place the resisting subject into handcuffs.
What if your client at some point that wasn't seen on video was in fact resisting and pushing back with his hands? That is a possibility.
That's absolutely a possibility. And I'm not denying that as a potential possibility, even though my stance is that he did not commit any resisting arrest.
Now, for the record, Ms. Crockett does not have any medical paperwork to back up her claim that her client may have a history of seizures.
Just like the Maryland dad, we have no actual evidence that he's a good dude. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like all the stuff. Hey, listen, these migrants are great. Do you have any evidence of that? Because we're not really seeing the greatness here. You know what I mean? Every Somali that comes into Minnesota seems to be on the dole and doesn't seem to care about the massive corruption. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no medical paperwork to back up her claim of how she's justifying this obscene act. It's like, okay. Again, lawyers have no North Star, and that's just, there you go, Jasmine Crockett defending the indefensible, right? Now, everybody needs a good defense attorney. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. They really should, right? But, a snake is a snake, a duck is a duck, a lawyer's a lawyer, right? An accountant's an accountant. Don't hire an accountant if you want an entrepreneur. You know why? Because their idea is to cut costs until you have nothing left. Robert Kiyosaki says that, right? A lawyer, same thing. A lawyer is about risk mitigation. Well, guess what? You're never going to make it big if you don't take risks. And the few lawyers that learn to take risks, they know that's because the rules are made up by other lawyers like them. All right. So here is another woman. This kind of has gone viral this weekend, but this is exactly what I have been trying to say for my whole adult life. I clued into this in college when I went to graduate and went and met she wasn't valedictorian. She was valedictorian for our major, right? So she, was the top of the degree class that graduated the year before me. And I went to a riot zone, which is just a carnival, right? A little local carnival in Eastern Idaho. And she was selling tickets. Minimum wage. And I'm like, what are you doing here? I was like, I thought you'd be working for a senator or you'd be doing something big, right? You were like the thing. Oh, I can't find a job. Oh, really? It scared me to death. So I was like, I've got a family now and I've got the same degree.
And she's got the best freaking degree there is.
Yes.
She's at the top of the class.
Top of the class. I'm like,
selling tickets.
Exactly. I was like, oh my gosh. Now, I had a political science degree, which admittedly, it's one of the soft sciences. Like, it's a little more useful than French literature or something.
It'll get you into law school.
It'll get you into law school, which was kind of the goal. But then you look at, I don't want to be like Jasmine Crockett. Okay. But this is the problem here. So here's a young woman who, in an attempt to live the American dream, this is what she's got.
Okay. So how is everyone buying a house right now? Because I just got off maybe one of the most humbling phone calls of my life. And I got quoted a 6.5% mortgage rate. Mind you, I do have an 808 credit score. I have zero debt. I'm also a registered nurse. So, I mean, in the state of Florida, which I work in, it's not great income. Let's be real. But yeah, I'm also single. So one income. How am I supposed to buy a house with a mortgage rate that high? One mortgage payment would be more than one of my paychecks. So yeah, that's very depressing. What is everyone doing?
Nothing. They're doing nothing. An entire generation of homeowners just like this have been completely iced out of major mortgage markets, major housing markets, just iced out. It's hard.
I think my payment's about one of my paychecks, so I don't know what she's complaining about.
Well, it shouldn't be more than about 30% of your income.
Sure.
Right. So if it's one of your paychecks, assuming it's biweekly pay, that's 50%.
Oh,
I mean, you're beyond, you know what I'm saying? It's beyond the pale.
I'm sorry. I used to get paid weekly, so I'm sorry.
Okay. Thinking about that. Yeah.
You know, construction, they pay weekly.
Yeah. So this is like a big deal. It's hard for people that are older, boomers, to really comprehend what's happening to the 20 and 30-year-olds right now. With high interest rates that have been steady for 4 years now, with increasing home values because they've inflated away the value of the dollar like crazy. It's, what's the phrase? The buses will be free, right? Like you can't continue this, which is why on top of national security risks, on top of all the stuff, it's the fourth turning. All the institutions that were our pride and joy back in the day are just, which one's working? You know what I mean? None of them are doing what they were intended to do. Department of Education, school results are the worst ever. FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Why can't we afford houses? I thought you guys were created to ensure that I would be able to afford a house. But instead, you're almost making it so I can't. Right? Those institutions make it more expensive. When we get towards the end of the show, we're going to talk about the absolute economic miracle that's happening down in Argentina. Because they took a chainsaw to all those programs. So pray to heaven that happens here. Here's another thing too, and this goes in. Now, there's like a psyop going on. Everything Trump has to do is going to cause an effect before there's the recovery. Okay, this is, you have to break it to fix it kind of thing. And you have, as you do that, you're going to expose some problems in the system.
Okay.
When Andrew Jackson took on the central bank system in the United States and defeated it, it led to a 4-year depression, which was then followed by a 50-year golden age, gilded age, right? But they had to redistribute wealth naturally and allow the supply and demand market to set in, and it took 4 years. Okay. This is the 4 years that it's going to take to recover, because right now, as we take immediate action to fix national security problems and to fix the acute issues with like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security benefits, all the, public housing, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, you are ripping people out of the economy that may or may not have been working. For example, this.
Okay, it's official. ICE is affecting my business because I got a job site and I got a ton of work to do and I got no guys to help me out.
Maybe you should, I don't know, stop hiring illegal immigrants. You think we're supposed to feel bad about you not being able to complete your job because you're undercutting actual hardworking Americans?
Yeah, that's pretty much the problem. But he still's got to go find those hardworking Americans. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that would have been on the roof helping this guy do that job or doing whatever construction job ended up in a jail cell, like my friend from Central Illinois who didn't have that job available to him because the immigrants had moved into his community when he was young. And they took the jobs that he could have taken on his way out of high school. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's going to take a while for those jobs to backfill and for people to relocate where there is work.
Like 5 to 10. I'm sorry, it was
like
bad.
5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably we'll get a Democrat in 2028 and then they'll take all the credit, right? Yeah. Okay. So now with this, there's real problems. These problems are tangible for the people who feel them. You're a small business owner, you're an employer, like that nurse down in Florida that can't find a house. Your problems are tangible. The solutions are painful. The solutions are painful. So what's happening right now, and Rasmussen and People's Pundit, their polling has all showed that this is the case. Right now, the younger generations want a strong authority figure to execute law and order, to enforce the border and national security, and to take on these institutions that are holding them back. Okay. So because we're a country that runs on elections, everything is about messaging, snapshots and sound bites and messaging, snapshots, sound bites and messaging. If you say you're going to do something, people will probably give you a shot. If you get into office and do it, they'll probably reelect you. If you don't, you're going to have a primary challenge and problems. You're going to have primary challenge and stuff anyways, right? But it's all about snapshots and sound bites. Mondami up in New York, still getting ready to get sworn in, still needs your money, but he's starting to really do the snapshots and sound bites again on what he's going to do to help small business. Now, imagine us who have an ideological difference with Mondami, oppose almost everything he stands for culturally. How do you defeat this? Where is the messaging coming from the conservatives and from the right and from the people who want to preserve Americana that is the equivalent of this?
There's a lot of things that make New York City special. For me, it's the delis and bodegas. Habibi, could I get an egg and cheese on a roll with jalapeno?
One's the wine special coming up.
Small businesses employ nearly half of all New Yorkers in the private sector. They keep the city running. But the last 4 years have been hard. We've seen the dollar slice go extinct, storefront after storefront close, and had a mayor in Eric Adams who has ignored the struggles of small businesses. That's why as mayor, I'm going to make it faster, easier, and cheaper for small businesses to get started and stay open. First, we're going to cut fines and fees for small businesses by 50%. Regulations are important, but small businesses have to navigate more than 6,000 of them, with far fewer resources than the big chains. That's why as mayor, I'll appoint a mom and pop czar with the clear goal of making it easier to run a small business. $1,000 isn't a lot to our city government, but it can be make or break for a small business trying to get off the ground. Next, we're going to accelerate permits and applications. The mom and pop czar will coordinate with agencies to speed up turnaround times, cut red tape, and let New Yorkers start businesses sooner. Because you shouldn't have to fill out 24 forms and go through 7 agencies to start a barbershop. But most of all, we're putting our money where our mouth is by increasing funding for small business support programs with 500%. We're going to invest $20 million in our Business Express service teams, which pair small businesses with a city case manager that helps them navigate permits and regulations, as well as connecting them with programs that provide them with financial and legal assistance. Right now, only 3% of businesses are using these programs. We want that number to skyrocket. The only thing more New York than an egg and cheese are the small businesses that make them. Together, we can not only protect them, but encourage new ones to make a home in our city.
That is a dangerous politician right there. Whether he helps him or not, that ad's out there now.
You want to hear an ad?
Speaking
I got an ad for you. So,
speaking of small business trying to make it.
Dang it. There's too many buttons.
Too many buttons, yeah.
Still haven't tried 7075 coffee? Now's your shot. Oh, you're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And it's black, 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is the ones for who've been watching 7075 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something like Rumble does.
Woohoo, yeah. Yes. Hey, you guys are going to have to let me know. We ended up doing 7 days of broadcast last week. Do you guys like that? Do you guys like the every day having something to come listen to? Because it wasn't that hard to do.
Jeez.
Or I could make clips. I got to pick how to do my time. New content or clips. Okay, so here's another thing. This happened a little while ago. And this was out in Linwood, which is real local here.
Yeah.
So this was one of these Afghan migrants that was resettled. Now, recently we've had 3 Afghan migrants that were relocated to Washington. One of them traveled to D.C. last week, day before Thanksgiving, shot 2 National Guardsmen. Mm-hmm. One of them traveled to D.C. and shot a state trooper on his way. Okay.
Do they know each other?
Only through the refugee program. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
Okay.
And then there was another one who they caught him while he was planning it online. And then there's this guy. This guy was local, so he didn't travel and go kill an authority figure. But when we talk about cultures, we talk about not assimilating, and you know what I mean? Like Donald Trump put out a truth this week where some former military member was like, I was in Afghanistan in the whatever valley, Kandahar Valley or whatever it was, in villages where if you had the nicest, fanciest Nespresso machine that made an excellent cup of cappuccino and you brought it out there and showed it to them and made him a cup of cappuccino, they'd call you a witch and cut off your head for it. Yeah, great, bring him here, right? And Donald Trump retweeted that. This is what he's talking about. This was in Linwood. This was in front of a high school in Linwood. This is a Muslim father who had arranged a marriage for his daughter in the United States of America. She didn't want to do it. So he decided he needed to do an honor killing in front of her high school in Linwood, Washington. This is it. That's the man on top of his daughter with a knife trying to kill her.
Gosh.
This is in front of her school in Linwood. Okay. This is an Afghan migrant brought here during the resettlement. These bystanders obviously seeing what's happening here. That is his daughter.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it's hard to watch. I'm sorry. It's only a few seconds.
That's horrific.
It is horrific. Okay. This is what, when you hear extremists that say things like it's a zero policy, we cannot have it. It's you guys can figure out how to live over there, but there is no amount of virtue that's going to allow me to want to allow that to come into our society.
No.
And spread that nonsense. Arranged marriages for
get
underage.
The hell out of here.
The daughter was 14, by the way.
No, get the hell out. Just get it out.
But yet you have people out there that can't see that. For example, here's the former mayor of Seattle, still technically the mayor, talking about crime and law and order. Now, apply this attitude to crimes like this. Does it even matter the background at a certain degree? I mean, if you pull the trigger, does it even matter why you did? You did, right?
The criminal system has had a disparate impact on Black and brown communities. Let me lead with that. So when this person is committing 6 or 7 crimes, I don't know his or her story. Maybe they were abused as a child. Maybe they're hungry. So my remedy is to find their life story to see how we could help first. I have no desire to put them in jail.
You can't read that many stories, Bruce.
And that's the calibration that we have.
See, Bruce, the problem is if you actually go down that road far enough, you end up putting them in re-education camps. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not willing to just punish the behavior and you want to change them and reform them, then you end up doing re-education camps. And guess what? All socialists and communists ultimately lead to that because they got to control your mind. Because what they're doing makes no sense. Okay?
Yeah.
Again, this is the kind of stuff where when you see out there and you have Donald Trump and others taking such hard stances with immigration, such hard stances with drug trafficking and things like that, it's because we're at the point where we have to get to zero tolerance. Here's Seattle. Again, I focused on Seattle today. DOJ immigrants are flooding Washington with fentanyl in a massive DOJ takedown. I don't want you to sell my personal information. I just did this yesterday. Okay. Illegal immigrant run fentanyl rings busted across Washington, massive DOJ takedown. 2 major drug trafficking organizations pumping fentanyl, meth, heroin, and illegal firearms into Western Washington were dismantled in October. Groups federal authorities say are tied to suspects from Ecuador and Mexico. Okay. Now, the attorney did a interview. He said, when asked directly whether all the suspects were American citizens, Floyd said, no, in fact, it looks like part of the group has ties to, I believe, Ecuador. It's fair for the public to know the Trump administration is not wrong about the fact that many of the people that are here illegally are committing crimes and very serious ones. Many of the people that are here.
How come this is the first time I'm hearing it?
You know, it's one of those things where it's finally starting getting cool to say. The conservatives and specifically Republicans, or MAGA Republicans, are finally getting to the point where they take the stuff thrown at them and they package it up and they throw it right back. Right? Yeah, we're racist. Why? Because we don't want our daughters killed in front of their schools. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're racist. Why? Well, because many of the immigrants here are committing crimes. You know, like matter of fact, prove me wrong. I think it's a fair narrative to get out, Floyd said, of disclosing immigration status. The counter narrative is certainly being pushed. Now, keep in mind, this is an attorney that had to get through the blue slip program where our Democrat senators had to approve him. So even he is saying this. The counter narrative that all migrants are fine and we should just help them. And they're just one-off is being pushed. He then goes on to talk about how they don't investigate based on immigration status, and they don't even ask DHS the immigration status of the targets they're doing. But during the course of their investigation, they often find out. Agents. He said, you follow the evidence where it takes you, emphasizing that illegal status of several suspects became clear only in the course of their investigation. The Mexico drug link. So anyways, he just goes on to talk about more and more of what he's taken. But bottom line is, the illegal immigrants, there was another politician this weekend that was like, it was Jasmine Crockett. We know that illegal immigrants commit crime at a much lower level. No, they don't. No, they don't. It's not even, we're not even taught, we know that the sky is purple. We know that for a fact. No, we don't. It's not even observable. You know what I mean?
It's a totally absurd thing to even say.
And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you've got this Afghan guy that drives across the country to DC to shoot these National Guardsmen. But for, the last couple of years, he's been quietly sitting in his apartment and allegedly, according to news reports, in the dark, hardly talks to anybody. They're so nice. It's like, yeah, they're really assimilating quickly, In Singapore, they have one of the strictest justice systems when it comes to drugs, right? And so this is the president of Singapore, and I don't know when this was recorded. It doesn't matter, but they've got a pretty good attitude about it. This is Lee Kuan Yew versus drug traffickers, and I think it's so hard for me to want to throw these judicial bombs and be like, everybody's got to go to jail. I hated jail. I don't want to go. You know what I mean? I don't really wish it on my worst enemies. But at the same time, one of the cognitions I came through there, it was about 6 months before I realized, this place is necessary.
Yeah, some of these people need to not get out.
Here. And honestly, there was a question. It was like, would killing them really be the worst thing ever? I mean, these are unrepentant people. They will go out and do it again. In fact, one of the things that came up, another January 6er was in response to this. Mm-hmm. The 2 shots to kill the narco terrorists in the water. Well, if they were alive, shouldn't we have captured them and to give them due process? And I was like, no. Here's why. First of all, we have no jurisdiction over them or anything like that. Second of all, they're narco traffickers. They know exactly what they're doing. They're not fishermen from a village, whatever. Yeah. They know exactly what they're doing when they get on board a boat with a bunch of drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the biggest thing about this that people don't realize, we have our young men and women that sign up for the military. Remember, my gang's bigger than your gang. Mm-hmm. And they'll go spend 18 months overseas multiple times, multiple deployments away from their family. Mm-hmm. But, their family gets paid and it's just part of the game. You don't think these cartels view a prison sentence as a deployment? Because they deal drugs in prison. They just become a different end of the equation. Mm-hmm. They still maintain all the same cartel allegiances. Their families still get their paychecks.
Do you think when their boat exploded and they landed in the water still alive, do you think they wondered what happens next?
But the point is, it's this idea that you can take these directly connected cartel guys, especially the ones that are straight up foreigners, it's not your street drug dealer, and you put them into prison. Their people are there. That's a deployment for them. They've signed up for this. That's part of their life plan. It's not a deterrent.
I know that you don't want to talk about this, but going back to that guy that went from Bellingham to shot those 2 guys, did you hear what he used for a weapon?
357 Magnum, I thought.
Yeah, revolver.
Yeah.
It's a 6-shot.
It wasn't even a semi-auto. I know. They're going to start using bolt actions and stuff because they want to take away all guns.
Right.
They don't want it to just be assault rifles with high capacity magazines.
So was this like a Democrat PR piece? Is that what's going on?
If you ask General Flynn, he thinks it's straight up orchestrated by the CIA because this guy was a CIA.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. He operated on their death squad in Afghanistan, our CIA death squad.
Yeah.
They call it Zero, whatever. Should have never been in this country. No. When a person overseas fights against their own country, right? They're fighting for liberty and freedom there. Mm-hmm. When you bring them over here, they're not fighting for our values. They were fighting for their values. Mm-hmm. He was fighting to bring his version of Islam back to his Islamic country.
Right. But when you go and you shoot 2 people that have guns with a revolver.
Oh, the National Guard didn't have guns.
Oh, okay.
Because they're just on the street just to.
But even then, you got a revolver. Bang, 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 bang. You're out of bullets. Now what?
Oh,
what's your plan? What was his final plan?
This?
To die?
No, just to go to prison.
Okay.
Listen, if you are having a hard time paying your bills on the outside and you understand that you got 3 meals in a cot, I'm just saying. All right.
This
is Lee Kuan on drug traffickers.
All right.
Yes. That's for drugs.
That's for drugs.
Yeah, and
because you think drugs deserve to be treated with the maximum punishment.
If we could kill them 100 times, we would, because you destroy whole families. It's terrifying to see, because you're then drug dependent. You steal, you cheat, you rob your own parents. I mean, it's soul destroying, and they come in knowing that death, if they are found with this goods on them, but the rewards are so great. And they try very, very unusual people. Women from Africa, big mammies, come to sell clothes. And in between the clothes are kilos of heroin.
And if you bring heroin into Singapore,
you hang.
You hang.
You hang. Anything beyond 10 grams, you hang. Below 10 grams, maybe you
if
can
you
say,
are convicted of bringing in more than 10 grams of heroin,
you hang.
You hang.
That's right.
After a jury trial.
Yes, of course. No jury trial. Judge.
Listen to the evidence.
What's the point, jury trial? We have on camera. You bring in the drugs.
Presented?
Yes, of course.
And if he says you're guilty, you hang.
You hang. And they still come. Unbelievable.
Well, do you believe capital punishment is a deterrence or not?
Without capital punishment, our transshipment rate as a drug center would quadruple or quintuple.
Because you're right on the passage.
Yes, and our internal consumption would go up by a multiple of 10.
I can't wait to get a year down the road when we start finding out how much Trump's activity has decreased the overall volume of death and stuff like that. Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I know your family was affected by this. You know, do you want to share?
My brother died of a fentanyl overdose.
Wouldn't it have been nice to take care of the dealer before it ever got here?
Yeah, I guess so.
When I was in prison, there was a guy that was in there. His name was Vince, and he was a good guy. He's a good guy. He was definitely found himself in prison, connected with spirituality and Christianity and stuff like that. But he was a drug dealer, and what he would do is he'd dress up in a cop uniform and he'd go rob drug dealers. Anyways, but when he went into prison, his son was 12 years old, and he had a 15-year sentence, and I think he's been in 8 years, so he's got a couple more years left. He's getting close because of good time. But his son was 19. And one day, Vince and I became pretty good friends. Walked on the track a lot. He was in the dog program. And one day, he just looks like a mess. I'm like, Vince, how you doing? He goes, my son died. What? And he'd written a book from prison called Letters to My Son by Vince. And he'd never put his last name. You can go find it on Amazon, Letters to My Son, right? And it was from prison. And it was trying to encourage his son to grow up and be a good guy and stuff like that. And his wife, she visited every week. His son, as he became a teenager, dad wasn't there. So he was rebellious and having a hard time. And it just, it's the story of teenagers, but no dad's in prison, gets involved with a girl, gets some drugs, overdoses. Yeah. So here's Vince sitting in prison with a son who's just overdosed from fentanyl. And he's in his block. There's guys in there that are there for distribution of fentanyl with death. And they're like, oh, we want to get out. We're innocent. We didn't really, and he's like, one of you guys just killed my son. You imagine how hard that is. So why we want to kill the boats coming across this ocean, why we don't care if 2 extra guys get popped off in the ocean that were on the boat, is because it saves us from having to incarcerate dealers and having to bury our kids. That's why.
And it's a deterrent to keep the boats from coming.
It is a huge deterrent. And I hate to say this, but sometimes you can't trust the system per se. So this is a DOJ press release, and I'm just going to cover this because, again, I almost hate covering law enforcement malfeasance, right? Because it creates this I mean, some people are like, dude, you're always railing against the cops. I know, because when you have an authority like that, you have a high duty. Okay, but this was a police chief in he was Houston, Texas. Houston police chief captain federally indicted for raping a 12-year-old girl 85 to 100 times after targeting her online. So this is a police chief that was a child predator online. We always have, I always say, when in Rome, do as the Romans. We follow the laws. We do our best to follow all the rules. But you always have to check authority. Do not assume just because someone has an authority badge that they are a moral authority or an ethical authority or are any different. You have to walk your own walk, stand tall, be sure of yourself, because these are some of the people that will come and try to enforce things on you. So you can't make it about, it's never about them or whatever. If that guy arrested some drunk driver, that was still a drunk driver. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant. There's a cultural and moral rot that's happening that allows people like that to find their positions of power. And it also enforces this same thing here too, because on a national scale, right, that's a little micro level, horrible thing and probably no involvement with others. It's not like the Mississippi River Delta where they arrested, sheriffs and stuff, and it was this long coordinated conspiracy. This probably is just a pervert, okay? And it doesn't even matter, locally for me. It's just another one of those sad things. But this is something that's interesting here. So with regards to the Letitia James and the James Comey dismissals, there was something that happened there that this Sam E. Anter, at Sam Anter on X, I'll give him a shout out. He says, obstruction of justice, 47 leaks, 9 newsrooms, 1 coordinated operation. And so what he's saying here is that who inside the Department of Justice coordinated with Letitia James' legal teams, Reuters, ABC, CBS, CNN, NBC, MSNBC, and Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and New York Times to sabotage their own prosecution. So basically what it's saying is you go down here and I'll show you this chart and kind of walk you through it. But essentially, Letitia James gets indicted. So you have this defense network that is formed of her attorney, Abe Lowell, Daga, Ally, Schumer, Garcia. And they start exchanging with DOJ insiders, career and prosecutor senior leadership, and with media. And what happens is they're starting to shape the narrative. And they put that narrative into court filings. And then DOJ insiders leak to reporters. They had a total of 47 leaks. All went one direction. Right? All went one direction.
Shocking.
The media publishes those stories and calls it evidence. And then what happened is all 3 streams converge in Lowe's November 17th, 2025 motion to dismiss. And what happened is the judge then cites those leaks, which were all going one direction. The indictments were dismissed on a procedural technicality, the appointments clause, not the evidence, not vindictive prosecution, a technicality. I expect DOJ will return and supplement it. But what they said was basically they all laundered it in and the judge just took it and it created the doubt and then they let it off on a technicality, right? And that's how they laundered that information into there. And they're going, DOJ insiders made 47 leaks. 47 leaks. It's like an open bucket. That's pretty freaky.
More than a full-time job, somebody.
Yeah. Anyways, that's just crazy. Another thing too, kind of changing topics here, is Tucker Carlson had on, let me just make sure I've got this. Tucker Carlson had on
testosterone and self-respect. And I know that
Alex Jones. And in his conversation with Alex Jones, he started talking about generals in the military and, them being woke and stuff like that. What's interesting about this is Donald Trump is clearly leaning on the military right now. Right. He's got activities going on in Venezuela, a little bit in Somalia. He's, leaning on that military might and strength. And Donald Trump has always really touted the generals, but then he goes, we have these TV generals and they're woke and stuff like that. We know from my friend Matthew Lohmeyer that communism has infiltrated the ranks big time, specifically the leadership, the generals, Secretary of Defenses, those kind of things. They've, the military is kind of a communist enterprise, like, admittedly, but that they've kind of really taken on this mantle. And what Tucker Carlson is observing is a lot of these guys that come through here and become military generals are not your General Pattons. These are not your battle-hardened soldiers, right? And this is, I think, a little bit of the problem where our military kind of misses the boat a little bit, and why we've had a struggle the last couple decades with, the obliteration of don't ask, don't tell, where it's like, tell us and we'll promote you. Okay? And stuff like that. Here we go.
A lot of them are sociology professors with nuclear weapons. I mean, they're scary. And I know that just from living in DC. I wouldn't know that if I hadn't spent my life in Washington. The Pentagon's right there. The neighborhood I grew up in Georgetown was, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs lived like one house over from me. There was always circulating through because they all circulate through DC. So I would have, go to dinners or duck hunts or whatever. You're with these people and you're like, wait, you're like stupid, totally incapable of like creative or independent thought. And you're a lefty big time, and like self-hating white guys and like crypto gay and like all like they're sociology professors. A lot of them. I've met a lot of them. A lot. Why do you think DEI swept through the military? Because the flag officers wanted it. And why did they want it? Because they hate themselves. Because they all got, master's degrees at Fletcher or whatever. At some, they all got indoctrinated by higher education, as you explained at the outset. So like, man, you have to make sure those people are loyal to the Constitution, and you need to go through systematically. By the way,
you think Trump finally knows that he thought the brass were these badass John Wayne guys are literally the enemy?
Well, apparently everyone says that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is like a really good, solid
Raising Cane
American. That's correct. Dan Cain is a great guy. So I mean, I think there are a lot of great people. Caveat.
There's still a few left.
Yeah, there may be many left. But
look at how Flynn
there are many bad.
Flynn hit himself forever.
Many bad. And the left used the COVID vaccine to weed out the men, guys with testosterone and self-respect, who were like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to poison myself. And so they left. And that was the point of the COVID vax, was to
purge
the men. So it's all like betas and women who can be controlled and are sort of eager to worship false gods. And you have those people with guns. I don't know. It's really scary what just happened under Biden. And has it been corrected?
So one of the things I would say to Tucker is they're making a huge effort to correct it. That generation of military people, right, when he's saying, they weeded out the men. Okay, well, let's now assume we have a bunch of sheep. Okay. Guess what? Sheep will be fed. So you got to start feeding them the agenda you want, the Americana you want, the American exceptionalism. If they bought off on DEI because that's what was shoved down their throat, guess what? You got to start shoving down their throat now. What was it about re-education camps? I guess that's what boot camp is, right? It's a re-education camp. You are no longer a free American. You are now a contracted soldier, right? All right, what do we got here, Ron? We got some GK Publishing?
I don't even know. We'll find out here in a second.
GK Publishing.
If you're watching this stream right now, you already stand. We're living through a full-on spiritual and cultural assault, and that's why you need to get your hands on the books coming out of the GK Publishing at gatekeepersonline.com. These are not soft Christian reads. These are weapons. Start with church and state, and the blockbuster book exposing exactly how the left infiltrated the American church to dismantle our country from the inside out. Then grab social injustice, a deep takedown of the false gospel of the social justice movement that's infecting pulpits and redefining truth.
This is a perfect ad.
Pastor Sam Jones hits even harder with 5 steps to kill a nation, a prophetic diagnosis of exactly how America is bleeding out and what must happen to reverse the collapse. And right now, you can pre-order 2 major releases you're going to want on day one. Cancel-Proof Christianity, which equips believers to stand firm when the world tries to silence them, and Following the Leader, a powerful look at the cult of personality, MK Ultra, and mind control tactics seeking to control your worldview. These books wake people up. They strengthen conviction. They prepare you for the battle that we're already in. Go to gatekeepersonline.com, hit the bookstore, and use promo code RUMBLE for a full buy one, get one free deal. That's code RUMBLE for BOGO at gatekeepersonline.com. Get equipped while you still can.
Man, that is one heck of a publishing company. We got some MK Ultra books. We got everything. That is awesome. I was laughing with my wife last night because I was like, Ron told me that his standard answer to the question that starts with, have you ever read the book? The answer is no. Like, if you ever start a question out with, have you ever read? It's like, just no.
No.
If it's not King James Bible, no, I haven't read it.
I mean, there's a few exceptions, but the easy answer is no.
Generally, no. Yeah, the few books that you have read, you're like, and you wouldn't be asking about them.
Right, exactly.
Some sci-fi book when you were a teenager or something. Anyways, I have quite a few friends who are, like that. You're really intelligent, Ron. I mean, somehow you picked it up.
I mean, if you ask me if I've ever read a Louis L'Amour book, I might have to think about it. Be like
maybe half of one at some point, right?
I've read a lot of Louis L'Amour books.
Oh, have you? Okay. Yeah. Louis L'Amour. But You have read a lot of technical manuals.
Oh, yeah. Well, I read when I have to.
All right. So this is Mel K. Mel K was a huge supporter of J6. So I really appreciate everything she's gotten. She's another one of these reporters that's out on the leading edge of things, which is actually not so different than us. If you're listening to this podcast, you're getting things as soon as it's available in the realm of things we're talking about: politics, policy, economics. I follow enough people, and I've kind of, through my adult life, kind of figured out, who is at the tip of the sword and who's breaking these little news stories that germinate over time. And what I've noticed is some stories break and it takes years. For example, we were on top of the Venezuela connection to Smartmatic and Dominion back in 2020, right? And just now it's starting to become like Alex Jones has got people coming on, and they're starting to really the
it's
machine
barely getting into the zeitgeist.
Exactly. So we were way ahead on that. In fact, I served a prison sentence because, well, I would have served it regardless probably, but I wasn't going to back down because I could see the evidence. So this is Mel K. She's talking about Obama and his library, presidential library, as well as some of the other stuff he's involved in. This is big. Okay. This little breaking story where she's getting it in these news sources, what's being published, is going to germinate over the next probably couple years. By the way, there's a huge connection with the CIA and after the church committee, and they went and hid out in Kenya right around the time that nobody was born, that eventually became a president that Venezuela bragged about putting in. There's a lot there. Okay, there's a lot to the Obama story yet to be told.
Chaos erupted on the Capitol when Senator John Kennedy unleashed a blistering 47-minute takedown during a Senate Appropriations Committee hearing, saying that the Obama Foundation was operating what he called the slickest money laundering operation since Capone wore spats. So basically what Kennedy found is that the Obama with freshly declassified IRS audits and whistleblower documents, the Obama Foundation has over $500 million in donor funds that vanished into undocumented global initiatives with zero paper trail. $740,000 annual salary to Valerie Jarrett, while the presidential center sat half-built for 8 years. Okay, only $1 million deposited into the promised $470 million taxpayer protection fund meant to cover cost overruns on the public park land where Obama put his whatever he's building there that looks like the Tower of Babel. $93 million in consulting fees paid to firms linked to Obama campaign bundlers. Kennedy said, "This isn't a foundation, folks. This is a personal ATM disguised as a charity." Former President Barack Obama, attending a nearby Democracy Forum, was handed a phone with live footage of Kennedy speaking.
So Kennedy kind of broke that story that's been being followed, but no one else is talking about that. But given all the conversations we're having about money laundering and all these different things, it's coming.
I feel like I was watching Jersey Shore.
Because of her accent, or just
is she from
Tower of
Boston?
Babel? I don't know where she's from. She came down to the prison a couple times. Pretty sure it was her. So there's the other thing too. Okay, now I mentioned that we were going to be talking about the seditious six. This is Slotkin and Mark Kelly and, those guys.
Lock them all up. That's what I say.
This is from Bad Kitty Unleashed. Bad Kitty Unleashed is a research account. There's a handful of these accounts out there that do deep dive research, and these are the Mike Benzes of the world that go into all these documents and they read speeches and they watch hours of these summits that, these World Economic Forum summits that people go to. These people provide an unbelievable service to people like me.
They read it so we don't have to.
They read it so we don't have to. Okay, so what I'm going to show you here, this is Alyssa Slotkin on October 29th, 2005. And we played this clip where Melissa Slotkin says that there's going to be an attack on guardsmen soon in a number of weeks. And then 2 weeks later, boom, we have an attack on guardsmen. Isn't it interesting? He's a CIA guy. She's CIA. It's like, okay. So this Bad Kitty, is that her name? Yeah, Bad Kitty Unleashed went through this article here, and she's not an article, but her whole speech, and she summarizes it. OMG, you guys, I just dug into the epic file I found, the transcript of Senator Alyssa Slotkin's speech at the Brookings Institute Night Forum on October 29th, 2025. Who is the Brookings Institute? The Brookings Institute was at the center of the Russiagate scandal and the Ukraine Gate scandal. They are one of these think tanks that pushed out all these fake news narratives and created all the legal justifications. You know,
the ones with all the great ideas.
They're an idea shop. Yep. And it's and they're very associated with the intelligence on the left. I mean, like this, you know, all this Ukraine stuff, Brookings Institute, they had multiple people that went and testified. And it's a total game changer. This thing is like a crystal ball predicting the future, dropping bombshells left and right. And it's got all the drama. Let me break it down for you in the most hyped up way, because this is straight fire. First off, timing is everything. The speech dropped on October 29th, 2025. That's a whopping 3 weeks before the infamous November 18th, Don't Give Up the Ship video that went viral. Slotkin was out there laying the groundwork, sounding the alarm bells way ahead of time. It's like she knew exactly what was coming and decided to rally the troops early. Mind blown. And get this, the video's name is right there in the speech. At the very end, she wraps it up with the powerhouse closer. Don't give up the ship. Bam! That's the exact title of the video, where she teams up with Mark Kelly and the crew to urge military folks to refuse illegal orders. It's not a coincidence. This speech was the blueprint, the origin story. She even ties it to the historical perseverance, shouting out generations who fought for rights. So inspirational. I'm getting chills. Now, the celebrity cameo alert. Victoria Nuland's husband was there. Yes, Robert Kagan. The powerhouse foreign policy expert was Stephen and Barbara Friedman, senior fellow at the Brookings. Victoria Nuland testified in the Russiagate, not Russiagate, Ukraine Gate impeachment. She was the ambassador to Ukraine at one point. She was considered, she's been basically deeply involved with Obama and then Biden. She's at the center of all kinds of stuff. Color revolutions. She's like the State Department connection, right? The powerhouse foreign policy expert that Stephen and Barbara Friedman, senior fellows at Brookings, was a panelist at the event. He dropped wisdom on domestic polarization as a massive security quack. Quick shout out, Kagan is indeed married to Victoria Nuland, the former Undersecretary of the State for Political Affairs. Power couple vibes. Having fun in the mix adds the extra layer of gravitas. It's like the event was stacked with heavy lifters who know the global stakes. Epic networking moment. But wait, the key points on this speech. Oh man, Slotkin goes full throttle, critiquing Trump's national security pivot to homeland defense, defined as one man alone. She's like, hold up, this could mean using lethal force against domestic enemies. She drives into the Caribbean, strikes 14 ships hit, 57 plus killed, plus zero transparency on who we're fighting. Shady much? Secret domestic terrorist lists targeting anti-Trump views and federal forces, turning U.S. cities into training grounds. She's warning about authoritarian playbooks, accumulate power, crush opponents, and rig the system to never lose, elections canceled. Martial law, limitation at polls. She's popping flares left and right. This is not a drill, people, because they're projecting. They're telling you what Trump's going to do, and it's what they're trying to get done. They want him to use those powers so they can usurp them. If he creates those powers and deploys into the streets and martial law, and then one day, pew pew. And now the person in charge is not the guy we elected. You see what I'm saying? This is a Nixon. How'd we get Gerald Ford, the unelected president? You see what I'm saying? This is how you do it. They allowed Nixon to create a weaponization scenario. They painted it on him, brought in Gerald Ford, and then they just continued to weaponize the government. Everything that Nixon was trying, that they alleged Nixon was doing, essentially trying to cover up a scandal that he wasn't involved in, is what they continued to do for the next 60 years. Then calls to action. Pure adrenaline. She urges Congress to reclaim power, introducing her to No Troops in Our Streets Act. Yes, Queen. Tells the military to fuse illegal orders and choose the Constitution over loyalty to one guy. Rallies veterans to speak up and even says, DM me to get their band together. Foreshadowing that video squad pushes the state leaders to protect elections and fires up everyday Americans to organize peacefully. It's a blueprint for resistance, drawing from her own January 6th barricade in the office trauma. She ends on that high note. Don't give up the ship because democracy needs us now. This file is a treasure trove of foresight and fire. If you're not pumped after reading this, check your pulse. Thank you, Grok, for typing my sentiments in my excited style. I'm sleepy. This could work. So anyways, she made it sound, all hyped up, but that's where you see this conspiracy formed well before that. She wrote the speech, but One of the things I can't remember who said it, but he was like, everybody thinks the deep state operates in the deep, like in the dark. And maybe occasionally they do, but the reality is these people are spread all over the globe. They're all over these institutions. They have FOIA requests, you know, they have limited what they can communicate. And if they do communicate and get caught, it causes problems. And they found over time that 99.9% of people don't pay attention to anything. So they can just get up and give a speech and tell you what they're going to do. That's an energetic thing of I warned you. And then when they do it, you can't be like, it was sneaky. They're like, we told you openly we were going to do this, right? It's like over and over and over again, they do this. And that's where Alex Jones is like, I don't have to read a conspiracy. I'm reading their own white papers. I'm reading their own publications. They don't keep secrets as well as we think. We are just ignorant of their stuff. You know what I mean? While we spend our time with bread and circus, they spend their time reading each other's press releases and interviews and stuff like that. And that's why on TV, you see so much signaling from these people when they get out and do an interview and they run talking points, right? They're signaling to other people, this is the talking point. Certain characters, as Scott Adams calls them, the designated liars, when they come out to do their song and dance, you know that they're setting talking points for the next guys. That's how they were able to launder those media hits into the courtroom to get Letitia James and Comey's cases dismissed. What do you think about that, Ron?
I hope my kid's in school.
You hope your kid's in school? Peasant problems. Carlete says, my kids lost 2 friends to fentanyl. Our family supports the quick trial Trump refers to. I remember when I was sitting in prison and Trump did the interview. Everybody in prison loved Donald Trump. And then he did the interview where he told Sean Hannity he wanted the death sentence for drug dealers.
Oh.
And all the white drug dealer guys were like,
you know, it's gotten a little close.
I oppose the death sentence for drug dealers, for domestic drug dealers. Like, I think these are our sons and daughters. If they commit murder or have somebody die, you know, you got to do what you got to do. But there has to be justice. But at the same time, you know, I don't think some of the guys I knew deserved death penalty. They definitely deserved a prison sentence, but they definitely also need some form of rehabilitation. They need some form of opportunity to come out to. And that's, I think the problem is this becomes so cyclic that you almost think the death penalty is the only solution. Maybe it is. Maybe it is the only thing. But anyways.
Well, especially the guys that are doing it just for the money.
Yeah. Speaking of just for the money, this is Elon Musk. This is back from the campaign.
Yeah,
I thought this was fascinating. It shouldn't surprise me at all, but he's talking about taxes and a publicly, maybe this isn't the one where he talks about having a publicly owned corporation, but when you run a publicly owned corporation, it's just that you work for the public, right? So you're obligated to all these taxes and stuff like that. Pretty interesting. Highest taxpayer ever in the history of the planet.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I'm the largest individual taxpayer in history. So I paid $10 billion in tax, over $10 billion in tax. You're welcome. Like I sort of thought maybe the IRS would send me like a little trophy or something. Like one of those, like, it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be like, one of those like things you get for when kids win a karate competition, like a little plastic gold trophy or something like that, or a cookie or something. But I didn't get anything. It's like, but I was happy to pay the taxes. I don't mind, Yeah, it's a good week this week. Yeah. Stock market's wild, sort of roller coaster. I think Warren Buffett's got a lot of good sayings, actually. But one of his sayings, I believe, is like, having a publicly traded company is like having someone stand outside your house and yell house prices all day. It's still the same house. And you're like, why is this person yelling house prices at me all day long? And that's what it's like being in a publicly traded company. It's just, they just yell stock prices at you all day long. And it's like, well, it's actually still pretty much the same company as yesterday.
This is a great video.
Kind of weird, a publicly traded situation. But anyway, I think we should simplify the tax code, get rid of a lot of exceptions and loopholes, and make it easy to.
Yeah, he's doing like a stand-up comedy. It's like a small video.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like you're watching Elon bomb right now.
Highest taxpayer. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I should get a trophy. I'm actually going to use that in one of my lessons at 7876 Live, because we're going to talk about, the different types of entities. You've got publicly traded businesses, S corps, LLCs, trusts, certain types of trusts, and how, as you go across the spectrum, they have different obligations. When you're a publicly traded entity, you're public. Right? You're owned by the public. You're just running the public's business that you sold to them via stock, right? And so therefore the government gets to regulate it in the public interest because the public are affected as owners. So it creates this huge regulation scenario. So anyways, fun stuff there. The other thing too is the American people are super resilient. We have major economic problems, clearly. We have a huge housing crisis, clearly. We have a huge jobs problem, clearly, because of the misallocation of who's getting jobs over the last half decade to decade to 20 years, really, for quite a while. But even regardless of all that, I remember hearing Scott Bessent say, the American consumer has been wildly resilient. We survived the dot-com crash. Then we survived the 07, 08 housing and financial market crash. And then we survived COVID. And every time we, the people, have come out on top, despite the naysayers, despite the people that think we wouldn't. According to Catherine Austin Fitts, there's been a concerted effort to try to get essentially financial and monetary policy out of the United States. But because we are such a resilient market, we're the bully. We're the ones who have the spending power and the capacity. We also have the entrepreneurship, which is when people analyze around the world, they're like, that is the one thing that America is just wildly entrepreneurialistic. Okay. And what that does is it gives us an edge. So even despite some of the quote economic bad news and things like that, there are some indicators that you look at and you go, that is something that you can go, that's a real thing. Black Friday and Cyber Monday or whatever has always been one of those metrics by which you can measure the real strength of the economy. How much are people willing to spend on discretionary holiday spending? Turns out this year was another one of those records.
The fact is that we just had the best Black Friday that we've ever seen. Wow. And it's not just because people are out there, taking debt on their credit cards. It's because incomes are way up under President Trump. They dropped about $3,000 a person, $6,000 a family under Joe Biden, and it's up $1,500 a person so far this year. And with all that extra money and with the government shut down over so people feel comfortable going back to stores, that we're seeing a really blowout Thanksgiving and Christmas coming our way. I think all the retailers expect that both online and in-store sales are going to be the highest we've ever seen. And the point is that that's happening even though inflation is way, way down under President Trump. And it was 5-10% under Biden, and right now it's running at about 2.5%. And it's not, it's way lower than wage growth. Right? And so people's incomes are going up by way more than inflation. And that's why we're seeing these blowout sales. The fact is
there is a relation there. There is a relation there between wages. So that's good news. That means, again, everything is driven by demand, right? Supply and demand. If there's a supply of something, is there demand for it? So the fact that there's still a demand for all the trinkets and goods, all we have to do is now make them in the United States because we'll buy them, right? That's the message here. If nobody ran to Walmart because they're like, oh, I'm super excited for the new China TV model. They're just excited for the TV, right? So that shows there's a consumer demand. As long as there's a consumer demand, we can drive this economy forward. And if we can eliminate government spending and get the taxation and all that kind of stuff under control, we can set ourselves up for really another economic miracle. Over in Britain, they had a Kamala Tominey, her on her show. She had the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, James Murray, on, and he was being asked about, I can't remember who the leader is there, that they weren't going to raise taxes on the working people, right? And she kind of pins this guy down, and she's like, you're raising taxes. But I found this interesting because the ideological debate here, one person is like, if you raising money and working class people pay taxes, you've raised the class on the working class people. And he's like, well, we didn't. We just raised taxes on everybody. She's like, including working class people, right?
Because you've put taxes up, haven't you?
No.
What?
No.
Are you for real?
Yes.
You told the people in the manifesto, the Labour manifesto, that you are only going to put taxes up by 8.5 billion. You've actually, between the last budget and this budget, put it up by 66 billion, including 26 on Wednesday. And you're telling me you didn't breach the manifesto?
We said in the manifesto that we would keep taxes on working people as low as possible. That's exactly what we've done.
Mr. Murray, you aren't seriously telling me that after a £26 billion tax raid, largely to pay for welfare, which is people on benefits, some of whom who work, many that don't, that you're not taxing working people in the budget?
No, we are asking working people.
So you are taxing working people?
We are asking working people.
So you've broken the manifesto?
No. Can I let me just explain this really clearly, right?
I think I've explained it clearly, and you are
Can I respond to it? Because what we said in the budget, what the Chancellor was really upfront about, is that we are asking everyone to make a contribution through the extension of the freezes to thresholds. But we're also clear that we are keeping the tax burden on working people as low as we possibly can because of other changes that we've made.
That is an extraordinary fudge. You're saying that you can honour the manifesto commitment because you haven't directly put taxes up on working people, because you haven't actually put up income tax, even though she floated the idea on November the 4th, despite knowing that she had 4.2 billion in the coffers. And you're saying, no, it's not technically a tax rise because we're doing it by stealth, by freezing the thresholds for another 3 years.
No, I'm sorry. There's nothing stealthy about the tax. There's no stealth tax if you say it there in Parliament what you're doing. She was completely upfront about what she was doing. The manifesto said we wouldn't increase the rates of income tax and national insurance on workers. We didn't do that. What the manifesto also said is we would keep the tax burden on working people as low as possible, and that's what we've done.
In Britain, who pays tax?
Well, people pay it on all sorts of things. People pay it on their work. People pay it on property income. People on dividends. People pay it on savings.
So
He just said people pay it on savings. So you earn it, you pay taxes, you save it, you still pay taxes. Oh,
property.
We agree on this one thing. Workers pay tax, correct? If the tax bill has gone up by 26 billion, workers are being taxed, aren't they, Mr. Murray?
Yes. We are asking everyone to make a contribution.
So you have broken the manifesto?
No, because the manifesto said we would not increase those rates of income tax and national insurance on working people, and that we would keep the tax burden on working people as low as possible.
The other breached the manifesto
I
because
love
you
how
put
they have
taxes up,
this
haven't you?
coded language. We're asking everyone to make a contribution. No, you're forcing everyone to make a contribution. This is not a negotiable thing with you guys. You're not asking for a little extra, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about asking. The next couple minutes, okay, the next 10 minutes of the show, which is going to be the end of our public program, everybody who's listening, please stay with us because I'm going to wrap this up with, again, the actual solution to all our problems. Undeniable solution to all of our problems. I'm going to read you a story that is the blueprint forward, a true story. Okay. This is how we fix all of our societal ills, all of them, without exception. But you need to follow me through here. Okay. Taxing, everything we cover on the show ad nauseum, corruption, tax money, grifts. It's because it's out of our control. Right? It's because our charity has been delegated to a government that has ulterior motives. Okay. Javier Millet down in Argentina is a libertarian, and he campaigned on slashing government spending, slashing government services, everything. And there's been a little economic miracle in Argentina over the last couple of years. So we're going to listen to a John Stossel piece. This is a couple minutes long. It's worth every minute. John Stossel does great pieces anyway, right? And then I'm going to come back around and we're going to talk a little bit about some DOGE spending and how we're basically doing a similar thing to what Javier Millet did down in Argentina here. And then we're going to get to the solution. So I need you guys to stick with me. It's going to be worth it, I promise. In fact, some of you might even break down in tears because when you realize the solution, we can fix our problems like today.
A year ago, this man screaming about liberty was elected president of Argentina. How has that worked out? Well, Javier Millet is a libertarian who promised to slash government spending. So, of course, reporters called him
far-right, radical.
Far-right Javier Millet.
Far-right Javier Millet.
Why far-right? The far right wants to ban most immigration, ban drugs, ban sex work, wants to impose tariffs. But Millet is a libertarian. He supports free trade.
Libre comercio, que vos, o sea, le vendés lo que producís a quien se te dé la gana.
He's also fine with sex work. He says gay marriage should be none of the government's business. He says people should have a right to choose their own gender. Millet mainly wants government to do less. But the media called him far right and said his election will spell devastation.
Millet's approach to everything is to cut more government support in any way that helps people.
But the country's big government had already hurt people more than it helped.
People in Argentina are struggling with one of the highest inflation rates in the world.
Argentina is really like a warning and an example for the United States.
Ian Vasquez studies Latin America.
Argentina was one of the richest and one of the freest countries in the world And then it started down a path of greater and greater government intrusion. It's the case study of a country that was once rich and became poor.
Javier Millet has become elected president.
When Millet came into power, there was 40% poverty rate. There was annual inflation of over 200%.
The media said Millet can't fix that. He's a snake oil salesman, a TV pundit with no government experience. He'll fail, they said, like his predecessors had.
Many predecessors have tried and failed to turn the economy around. Javier Millet will be no exception.
But Millet is an exception, a politician who told the truth.
No hay plata. He was the first politician in generations to talk to Argentinians as though they were adults.
He explained that government has no money of its own, and whatever it spends, it takes from the people.
El Estado no puede dar nada porque no produce nada.
It's why when campaigning, Millet brandished this chainsaw to illustrate how much government needs to be cut. For my TV show, I used to say, you got to cut more out of the budget and use these gimmicks. Then I used the chainsaw and make really. I think he copied that from me.
Well, you know, he does pay a lot of attention to libertarians from around the world.
Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera.
In the United States, politicians who promise cuts rarely win votes, but Millet won by a landslide. The media then eagerly covered union protests against him.
Thousands are attending at demonstrations opposing his drastic cuts to public spending.
Cuts by the Libertarian government plunged the region into a financial crisis.
There was no way to avoid that because of the mess that the previous governments had left. The question is, what's the best way out? And Millet has said from the very beginning, the best path out is through freedom.
This is incredibly important, right? There will be tough times. It's the Andrew Jackson lesson. You go after the central bank and you destroy whatever that's destroying us. And there's you have to now stand up. You have to now start doing it for yourself, right? That thing they were trying to impose on you and do for you, you've got to do yourself. 4 years of depression followed by a Gilded Age, right? So, yes, right off the bat, you cut these services, cut this, cut that, there's going to be pain. You cut SNAP benefits, you cut welfare benefits, there's going to be pain. But then the freedom kicks in. Then the entrepreneurship shows up.
Millet's big cuts worked. And now a few in the media even admit that.
And what he's been able to achieve in a very short time ought to be inspiring.
At first, this analyst trashed Millet.
He has no experience and he does not have an economic team. So he's going to fail.
But 8 months later, he acknowledged
his radical plan to save Argentina's economy seems to be working.
A lot of the international press in the last month has come out and said, we've got to take this guy seriously. This stuff is working.
Those changes have led to a budget surplus, the first in 15 years.
Inflation is down. The economy started to recover in the second part of last year, way before what most people expected.
I have to say, the night before I was remanded into incarceration, Javier Millet won his election.
Wow. What a turnaround.
It took 4 years, 5 now, right? But instantly they started to see the right trends and, but there's still the crash that you got to kind of recover from. But now it's a South American economic miracle.
Millet is showing that his libertarian policies are working.
What does libertarian policy mean?
Millet got rid of 9 ministries. He cut government spending by 30%.
He fired thousands of government workers and cut handouts.
He has slashed energy and transport subsidies, government spending on things like pensions.
His deregulation ministry shut down 200 government offices.
2 deregulations per day since he's been in office. That's remarkable.
Sometimes the results were good immediately. Rent control in Argentina had created a shortage of apartments.
When Millet lifted rent controls, the supply of apartments in Argentina tripled and their price fell by about half.
Which libertarians keep...
Hey, America! Hey, America!
The rent controls maintained a higher price than the intention, but because it discouraged other people from entering the rental market because they would be regulated. As soon as they took off the price caps, all the people in the cities were like, let's go to that nice hacienda in the village and rent this thing out to a worker, right? And rents actually went down simply because the market took over.
Saying that if you Get rid of the price controls, the supply goes up, and that reduces prices.
Millet really does understand free market economics.
Argentina still has big problems, although inflation is a fraction of what it was. It's still high. There's lots of poverty. And Argentina's tariffs make consumer goods expensive. This $800 iPhone costs almost $3,000 there.
Argentina still has a long way to go. And that's why Millet recently said that what's coming is the deep chainsaw.
Meaning much less government. What if we could have that in America?
Basically, we're on a path to bankruptcy.
Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency want to make Millet-style cuts in the United States.
We have to cut government spending, or we're just going to go bankrupt, just like a person would.
And Musk watched what Millet did.
He's making all the right moves.
Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte. Afuera.
Millet has showed that cuts are possible. And as Millet cut government, he actually gained popularity. Freedom can work. If only our politicians will learn from Javier Millet.
Así que vayan, peleen por la ciudad de la libertad. ¡Viva la libertad!
Long live freedom, damn it!
I get the continued impression that our politicians do understand this and they just don't want us to have freedom.
Well, of course. And Elon Musk explains exactly why. So there's a rumor that DOGE has now been shut down. That's not true. DOGE is continuing on. It's now embedded in the different cabinets or in the different departments. Mm-hmm. But Elon Musk explains when you go to take that deep chainsaw cut, things happen. People start squeaking, right? This is important. Remember, please stick around because after this video, I'm going to show you guys the solution to all of our problems. All of them. Okay. And it's a powerful one.
What did DOGE teach you if you learned one thing?
Well, it was like a very interesting side quest, because I just got to see like a lot of the, workings of the government. There's been quite a few efficiencies. I mean, some of them are very basic efficiencies, like just adding in requirements for federal payments that any given payment must have an assigned congressional payment code and a comment field with something in it that's more than nothing. Like that trivial seeming change, my guess is probably saves $100 billion or even $200 billion a year. Because there were massive numbers of payments that were going out with no congressional payment code and with nothing in the comment field, which makes auditing the payments impossible. So if you have to say, like, why can the Defense Department or now the Department of War, why can it not pass an audit? It's because the information is not there. It doesn't have the information necessary to pass an audit does not exist is the issue. So a bunch of things DOGE did were just very common sense things that would be normal for any organization that cared about financial responsibility. That's most of what was done. And it's still going on, by the way. DOGE is still happening. But it turns out when you stop fraudulent and wasteful payments, the fraudsters don't confess to this. They actually start yelling all sorts of nonsense that you're stopping essential payments to needy people. Mm-hmm. But actually, you're not. We get this thing like saying, "Oh, you've got to send this thing for whatever." It'd be like, "This is going to children in Africa," and I'm like, "Yeah, but then why are the wiring instructions for Deloitte and Touche in Washington D.C.? Because that's not Africa." So, can you please connect us with the recipients of this money in Africa? And then we get silence. I'm like, okay. We just want to literally talk to the recipients. That's it. And then we're like, oh no, it turns out for some reason we can't talk to them. I'm like, well, we're not going to send the money unless we can talk to the recipients and confirm they will actually get it. That's sort of fraudsters necessarily will come up with a very sympathetic argument. They're not going to say, "Give us the money for fraud." That's not going to be what they say. Obviously, they're going to try to make these sympathetic sounding arguments that are false.
They're going to start an NGO and then
Yeah, they're going to see NGO. It's going to be like the Save the Baby Pandas NGO, which I'm like, who doesn't want to save the baby pandas? They're adorable. But then it turns out no pandas are being saved. Okay, in this thing, it's just going to a bunch of, it's just corruption essentially. And you're like, well, can you send us a picture of the panda? They're like, no. Okay. Well, how do we know it's going to the panda then? That's what I'm saying.
Can you send us a picture of the panda? No. All right, guys, we are just about there to the solution, the actual solution to all our problems. But before we get there, we got one more ad to read.
Ah, yeah, I love these.
Oh no!
Come on! Do it!
Gotta hit refresh again. Stick with us, guys. This is going to be worth it. When you guys hear this story, you're going to recognize the connection. Do we just need to skip it?
I guess
just redo
so.
it there.
It's not
Hit
working.
refresh and then redo it. That's usually what has to happen.
Okay.
Boop, and then just pick it. You guys got to stick around. Trust me, it's totally worth it. Just a few more minutes.
Boom. Come on. All right. Looking for smarter ways to browse and enjoy your favorite content without ads like this? Get the Perplexity Pro bundle with Rumble Premium for just $20 a month when you sign up before December 31st, normally a $30 value. With Rumble Premium, you'll get an ad-free viewing experience all across all your devices and access to exclusive premium content. No interruptions, just the videos and streams you love anytime, anywhere. Plus, Perplexity Pro boosts your productivity with unlimited research, unlimited uploads, exclusive member perks, and access to the latest and most advanced AI models for faster, smarter answers every day. Save over 30% on this powerful bundle. Head to rumble.com/premium before December 31st to sign up and unlock your premium experience.
Boom. Nice. Okay, guys, here's the solution. I watched a video one time years and years ago where it was Beth Stuckey. She's kind of a female conservative pundit. And she said, what is the solution to hunger? And she said, I am. She says, what is the solution to, a bunch of other stuff? She goes, I am. And I've had this phrase in my head for a long time that it's intolerable for me to see a brother or sister suffer and struggle, right? It's my duty to relieve suffering and pain in my presence. And if everybody does that, then we can eliminate it around the world. This is the concept of volunteerism. It's who is your neighbor? My neighbor is not someone in Afghanistan. My neighbor is who I see. We're not supposed to separate ourselves by tribe, right? Now, obviously, this is in the backdrop of all this immigration stuff and blah, 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 but that's the problem. We're trying to top down solve all of our problems. We're trying to delegate to our leaders to solve the problems that we should be solving ourselves. So here's an example. There's always a struggle to keep houses warm. There's always a struggle to, deal with poverty. Yes, exactly. So this is from Mr. Pitbull 07 on X. My name's Hank. I'm 66. I deliver propane to homes, rural routes, farms, folks off the grid. I fill their tanks, check their connections, drive to the next house. Most customers just sign the slip, barely look up. I'm just the propane guy. But last February, during that brutal cold snap, I noticed something at the Miller place. Pulled up to fill her tank. Gauge showed empty, completely dry in 15-degree weather. I knocked on the door. Miss Miller answered. 3 kids bundled behind her in coats inside the house. Ma'am, your tank's bone dry. How long have you been without heat? 4 days. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. Bills due Friday. We're waiting on my husband's paycheck. 4 days, 3 kids, 15 degrees. Ma'am, I'm feeling it right now. I can't pay until I'll mark it as a delivery error. Computer glitch. Nobody will know. She started crying. Why would you do this? Because those kids are wearing coats inside. I filled the tank, circled the furnace, checked the furnace, made sure the heat kicked on before I left, drove away thinking about what I'd seen, kids doing homework in winter jackets, a mom choosing between heat and food. Started paying attention different after that. The elderly veteran whose tank was 10%. He was rationing, keeping one room warm. The single dad whose payment was 2 weeks late. He'd been burning the firewood he couldn't really afford. I started doing something I shouldn't. When I saw someone struggling, someone who'd run out, someone's rationing heat, I'd add 50 gallons, mark it as a meter calibration or pressure test residual, small amounts enough to get them through. Did it 11 times that winter. My boss noticed the discrepancies, called me in. Hank, we're showing extra gallons delivered, but not billed. I told him the truth, everything. He stared at me for a long time, then said, "My daughter was a single mom once. Chose between heat and groceries every winter. I wish someone had helped her. He didn't fire me. Instead, he created something called Warm Hearts Emergency Fund. Customers could donate. We'd match it, use it for families in crisis who couldn't afford propane. But here's what broke me. Mrs. Miller came to our office in May. She'd gotten a better job, got caught up on bills, and she handed me an envelope inside $200 for the next family. The one you'll find in February, 4 days without heat, trying to be brave for their kids. She grabbed my hands. Hank, my youngest has asthma. 4 more days in that cold. I don't know if she couldn't finish. Last winter, the Warm Hearts Fund helped 23 families, not with handouts, with heat when they had none, with dignity when they felt broken. And here's the thing. Other propane companies heard about it, started their own programs. Now there's an emergency heat funds in 6 states. But the moment that destroyed me happened last month. Got a call to deliver to an ad nest. I recognized the Miller place. Miss Miller answered, "Hank, come in, please." Inside, warm, kids doing homework at the table. Laughing, she handed me a paycheck. Full payment plus a check, full payment plus extra for the fund. But also, she pulled out a drawing her youngest had made. A stick figure man with a propane truck. Caption in crayon, "Mr. Hank, my hero." She asks about you every winter. Is Mr. Hank making sure people are warm? I'm 66. I deliver to propane to houses nobody notices. But I learned this. Cold doesn't wait for paychecks, and no child should do homework in a winter coat inside their own home. So if you deliver anything, oil, propane, firewood, and you see someone struggling, someone empty, someone rationing, find a way, mark it wrong, call your boss, start a fund, do something, because heat isn't a luxury, it's a survival. And the difference between freezing and living shouldn't be whether your paycheck arrived on time, but the reasons your paycheck arrived on time be the reason someone stays warm. Let the story reach more hearts. That's the point. You are the solution. We don't need the government. We need each other. Mm-hmm. We don't need to route our charity and our virtue through a third parties that could grift and take it from us and use it for their own purposes.
90% admin.
This is direct. Mm-hmm. This is why when my family was affected by my incarceration and my children's social things were being restricted, sports and things like that, my wife decided to be the change she wanted to see in the world. A family member told her she'd pay for my children's sports and activities while I was gone. Mm-hmm. And that was the impetus to create Left Behind and Without.org, to help other children that have incarcerated parents, currently serving over 100 kids to this day. Mm-hmm. I've been out for, coming up on a year next month in January, because we're in December, still helping kids, just like that relief fund, right? We can be the solution and we can be the change we want to see. We don't need the government. What Javier Millet is doing in Argentina is freeing up the people to be the solution to their own problems. That is what can change the world. It's when we, the peasants, take control of our own destiny and we do not allow suffering to happen around us without doing something to aid of our own.
Especially do not rely on the programs that are available to help people. The programs don't help people. People help people. Because
these are funded by individual donors like this, it's a real need scenario. Mm-hmm. It's not an enablement program. It's not all of your energy bills paid for a year by the government for someone who chooses not to work in order to keep the benefits.
Right.
These are people aspiring to help themselves that just need a neighbor. Who is my neighbor? That's it right there. That's the Samaritan that pays for the medical bills for the man that was beaten on the street.
Right.
That people they saw with their eyes.
People need people who care, and programs don't care.
Yep. So that is what I wanted you guys to stick around to hear. That's the pattern. This is the future. This is how we fix our problems. Find the thing you can do to make a difference. All right, guys, that's it for the public. We are going to head over to private and finish up. We're going to be hearing a little bit from Alex Jones about making a big difference. We're going to be hearing from Mark Mullins. We're going to be talking some Venezuela stuff here. And we're also going to be talking about China is finally getting the boot when it comes to American real estate. This is coming from the Labor Secretary. And then we're going to be talking a little bit more about the control grid and what's coming and why it's so important for us to be the solution. They want to implement the control grid so that they can extend the welfare state. It's that simple. You can go listen to RFK talk about every totalitarian has wanted to do this. And they will pitch it to you as the way to help that lady get her house warmed in the winter by putting you on the control grid and taking your resources to redistribute. But we know the truth. They never redistribute. Okay, we're jumping over to private. We'll talk to the rest of you guys.